Hello and welcome back to the Stacey West YouTube channel and back for another preview, this time looking ahead to Tuesday night's fixture away at Rotherham United. Steve Evans, Rotherham United as well, and to talk all things that are to do with Steve Evans and Rotherham, and there's a lot of things that we could be talking about here. I'm joined by Matt from New York Talk. How are we doing, mate?
I'm very, very good, mate. Nice to speak to you.
Yeah, you too. Great to have you on. Looking ahead to Tuesday, and let's start this as we always do on the previews by talking about the season so far. And something tells me you might not want to talk about the season so far. I mean, I'm kind of just going to throw it over to you here because 18th place, Rotherham United, it doesn't really seem like it's it seems like it's going great so far.
No, it's not. It's absolutely not. No, we obviously had last season, which was just a disaster. 5 wins in all season, and we kind of thought, okay, it was a rubbish season. But when we go down to League One, win some games. I didn't think we'd be a top 3, but we're going to win some games. And we've won 4, I think, so far. It's been really rough. You know, we went into that first game against Exeter, kind of thinking, it's a positive. We got signed all these what are supposedly really good League One players: Clark Harris, Joe Powell, Sean Raggett, Joe Raffey, all these players that should be okay, decent at this level. And we kind of went into the first 45 minutes, sitting at half time thinking, I don't really know what we're doing. I don't know what the plan is. What are we meant to be doing here? And you kind of think, okay, it's first game of the season. Let's give it a little bit of run. And we had poor August, but then we beat Huddersfield, who would won all their games at that point. And we had a really good win. Malik Wilkes turned up, who's been on loan. And said, okay, we've turned a corner here. And then we didn't win again for a few more weeks. We won 4 games this season. 2 of them were against 10 men. One of them was in the 90th minute, which came off Sam Nombe's backside. And the other one was against Stevenage, who were really, really poor as well. There's a lack of plan, lack of identity about the team at the minute. Steve Evans seems a little bit lost, which is weird for a guy of his experience. He doesn't really seem to know where he's going in terms of tactics and setup and style. And the fan base is toxic. We lost 2-0 to Barnsley a few weeks ago in a South Yorkshire derby. And it's one of the most toxic atmospheres I've been involved with. You know, you're not fit to wear the shirt. Evans, you're just getting sacked in the morning kind of thing. It was a really, really tough atmosphere to be part of. But understandable and probably fair. It's been really, really poor. Even for the most pessimistic times, I predicted 8th at the start of the season, but this is even worse than I and I was the lowest one predicting our podcast, that kind of league position. So it's been rough and tough, and yeah, I'd like to start winning some games again, please.
I can certainly imagine. Let's just hope that doesn't start again on Tuesday. Let's talk about, there's kind of a few things there that I want to pick up on. But first of all, you're talking kind of a lack of identity, and there's clearly very little team cohesion. You did a lot of the transfer business very early on in the window, which could sometimes be great. You get ahead of the curve. And I think some sort of preseason predictions may have put you higher because of that, because it looked as though you'd got the team done early.
Yeah.
But also, I think from the outside looking in, the transfer strategy just looked a little bit like, oh, these have performed well in League One. Okay, well, we're going to take him. And I wasn't too sure exactly how everything was going to fit together, and obviously now it's struggling. What was kind of your thoughts on the transfer strategy at the time?
When it happened, you can't help but get. When you signed Johnson Clark Harris, for example, you can't help but get excited. The amount of goals he scored, we had him before when he was much, much younger. But you kind of think that's quick. So we signed Liam Kelly from Coventry, who's been fantastic for Coventry for years. Then you can't help but get, Sean Raggett won the league last year, Joe Raffey won the league last year. You can't help but think, wow, okay, this is especially on the day that they signed, or a few days after, you think this is pretty exciting. And then it gets to kind of June, because we signed like 7 in May or something like that. It gets to kind of June and then July, and you're kind of thinking, okay, well, they're all experienced players. But where's your balance? Where's your young kid who's going to prove himself, or the 22-year-old who wants to do something, who was really good in League One last year, was an outstanding performer, or League Two, that you can kind of say, okay, he's going to be really exciting this year. He's gone for kind of experienced pros, which is fine to an extent, but it quickly became clear that either we went too hard too quickly, or that there was no plan to start with. Steve Evans, I think, said in July, that we've got the kind of bulk, and now it's time to fine tune the squad. We signed 2 players after he decided to fine tune, and one of those was somebody from Stamford. So it's turned out to be a poor summer, as it turns out now. Like it's easy to say that now. But in July, we were all kind of worried where the balance was coming from, not just in age, but in positional play as well. But it was easy to get carried away in May, especially with the season we'd had. I think the season we'd had, that when we got a little bit excited, we all got carried away. Oh my God, we'll sign these players, we're going to start winning again and whatever else. But when pre-season kicked off and the lack of balance kind of showing, it became quite clear quite quickly, even in pre-season, that there is work to be done. But Steve Evans, he loves a signing, doesn't he? Yeah, he could sign 23 players a season if he could. So we shouldn't be surprised, I suppose.
No, and maybe that just points to the fact that you might have a bit of a busy January transfer window. But just talking again about Steve Evans, and I'm saying January transfer window, that's if he's even still there. You were saying, obviously, earlier on, very toxic atmosphere. And that's never great when you've got the fans turning on players and manager in that situation. And sometimes it can feel as though there's no way out. So on that, is there a way that Steve Evans can turn this around with kind of on the pitch performances, or do you think that kind of level of trust has fully broken down?
I think it's broke down, and I think most important with the players. You look at the players, and they're clearly not doing as he asks, because again, there's no identity. Steve Evans does not send them out to play like that, because no manager would. So I don't think the players are responding to his style. I think his style's outdated. I said that when he came in. I didn't want Steve Evans back. I was one of those guys that, thank you for what you did 10 years ago, but I think the time has kind of passed. His style works in League Two. I think there's a big difference in League Two players and League One players, especially when you bring them in to start with. League Two players tend to be almost journeymen that need to find a home, and I think Steve Evans can do that in League Two. When you're signing really experienced players in League One, shouting at them and getting angry all the time, it's generally not going to work. Liam Kelly's 34-year-old, 35-year-old. Shouting, that's not going to work. And I think the same for some of the other players as well. The chairman and him are actual best friends. They are best friends. They go to each other's family weddings, and I don't think that's a good thing. I think it's good to be close. I think it's good to understand each other, but I don't think you should be employing your friends. If this was any other manager, Paul Warne, Matt Taylor, he'd be gone. There's absolutely no question about that. Whether that's right or wrong, obviously time will tell. I think I can't see a way out of this for Steve Evans to get us back in any sort of conversation for the playoffs. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong, but there's just nothing to hang your hat on. Even when you mentioned earlier about we spoke on our podcast about when your new manager came in last year in that 4-game run where we lost 4 in a row. You start something to hang on. You because of the injury, because of you can see there's a new plan coming in or whatever the case may be. I can hang on to that and be positive. We've got nothing to really hang on to in terms of style, in terms of players coming back from injury, particularly. It needs a reset. The club needs a reset, and I think if it was me, it'd have gone after the Barnsley game 2 or 3 weeks ago. But I can't see a circumstance where the chairman will sack his best mate, and I think that's a concern.
No, of course it is, especially if decisions are being driven by that. As a fan, it's infuriating, isn't it? If that is the situation, 100%. Now, look, you spoke about style or lack thereof that you've got so far this season. How do we kind of expect you to be lining up? What kind of tactical formation are you employing at the moment?
Very difficult to say, because after the last international break, we had a cup game against Bradford and the game against Crawley, where he kind of started 3-5-2-ish, and he tried to be more patient, keep the ball, much less direct. And we beat Bradford only in the cup, but we beat Bradford. But then in Crawley, we were poor for 45 minutes. So Stephen just threw all that out window and went back to a 4-3-3 and just went direct again. So we have had another break because we weren't in the FA Cup second round. We've had another break, which Steve Evans said was really, really important for some reason. This break was vital for some reason. This in the FA Cup weekend. So I don't know if he's got something up his sleeve where he's going to go back to this kind of keeping the more patient style. If I had to bet, I think we're going to go direct. I think Clark Harris will play. We'll go direct to Clark Harris and try and play off him. That hasn't worked so far this season, so probably won't work on Tuesday. But if I had to guess, and it is purely guess, there's no real logic behind our play at the minute. I think it'll be quite direct and really, really, really ugly.
Well, great. Can't wait to watch that on Tuesday then. That's hopefully going to be something that we can combat quite well. Obviously, with the defence that we've got, it's typically quite strong against strong attackers, especially aerially. We can be quite good with that. So hopefully that's something that we can very much kind of deal with, and then hope, get our opportunities to be able to go ahead and maybe get a couple of counter-attacks in of our own, and keeping the ball on the ground sounds like it could be much to our benefit, rather than it being to yours, which again is obviously something that we would be liking to go for. So obviously you mentioned there Johnson Clark-Harris up top, obviously one of the key players, even if it necessarily hasn't worked out as much as you'd like it to. Any other players that you think, obviously, what you said, you've got a whole host of League One kind of ready names and kind of big League One stars, if you like. But are there any that you think are typically standing out more than others, or is there literally just no one?
The only one that's really standing out is Malik Wilkes. The issue with Wilkes, he has been out injured for 3 or 4 weeks, and there's a chance he'll be back in for Tuesday. And the games that we've won have been because Malik Wilkes has just turned up. He's like the League One Adel Tarat, for everybody that remembers him. He can just turn up and do something that you just, oh my God, I can't believe he's done that. But then he can also just stand around for 90 minutes, not doing anything. If Malik Wilkes plays, if you put 2 men on him, you've almost beaten us already with how we're playing at the minute. But he is the man you have to be really careful of, because he can take on 3 men and ping it in top corner. He can score from impossible angles. I think he's got 3 or 4 goals this season. I think he's not quite a top scorer. He's not far off. But he's the only one that kind of gets us off his seats at the minute. And like I said, he's been injured. So will he come back fully fit? Probably not. He might not even start. It might be half an hour at the end if we're kind of chasing the game, maybe. But if we're to get something out of the game, my guess would be that Malik will have to play, and he will have to do something probably on his own, and probably pretty special.
Well, let's hope that he's not quite ready to come back on Tuesday night then. And then finally, how do you see the game going? And obviously, because we're cruel and we like to make all of our guests do this, put a score prediction on it.
Yes. I dread every single game we have at the minute. Because if we go 1-0, if you get a goal, we're done. Because the crowd will turn within an instant. I mean, there won't be many there. I think it'll be a really, really low crowd anyway. But if we concede 1 goal, the toxicity will be something that I've not experienced at New York City. The bad atmosphere has been away from home so far. If we lose at home or take a bad defeat at home, it will be the worst at home. Honestly, I just can't back us at the minute. I'm just really, really struggling to back us. Normally I can't. Normally I'd say I have no reason to say this, but I'll go a 2-0 win. I can't even do that at the minute. I just can't see how we would get a win. I will go 2-0 to you guys. I think it'll be relatively comfortable. I think you've got some quality, you've got some players, you're an organised unit who knows, everybody knows the plans kind of thing. And that tends to mean we got beat 1-0 by Crawley last week, and they weren't very good, and they should have won 2 or 3-0. So yeah, 2-0 to you guys, and get ready for some booing at full time.
Well, I will very much look forward to that. Let's hope it does go that way. I'll be honest, I said it, so for a little peek behind the curtain, we've literally just recorded the same sort of preview, but from the other angle, so talking about Lincoln over on the New York Talk podcast. And I said on there, a 1-1 draw. I don't know, there's always that kind of thing in the back of my mind, I think, when we are playing a Steve Evans side, even if it's not a good Steve Evans side, you just kind of think there's an opportunity there that they can maybe just try and bully their way through to a 1-1 draw, especially away from home for us. Obviously, just hope that isn't the case, and I'm much preferring your prediction of 2-0. But I'm going to be an eternal pessimist and just go with a 1-1 draw. But hopefully, like I say, it is very much your prediction. But yes, thank you so much for joining me, Matt. For those of you who do go on Tuesday night, enjoy it. It should be, by the sounds of it, quite a good trip, and hopefully you'll be hearing a lot of the boos and maybe even joining in with them as well towards Steve Evans at the end of the game. But thank you so much for joining me, Matt. Thank you all so much for watching. Up the Imps.